I'm going to show you a few little massage tips that I found really helped me with my clients just to elevate my practice a little bit. So I'm going to start with a double cleanse because there's some makeup on the skin. And I'm going to use the gentle cleanse because Anna Louise's skin is a bit dehydrated. So I've added a bit of water to the cleanser. I'm going to introduce my touch at the temples, and that just lets your client know that you're about to start cleansing. And I just go really slowly. I think when you start doing facials, you can feel like a bit in a rush, a little bit nervous. And so however slow you think you're going, you can nearly always go a little bit slower. What I did when I started training was just to practice on whoever I could. I realise it's a bit different at the moment with COVID, but if you've got friends or family members in your bubble, just get them there modelling for you and practice. And make sure you focus on the forehead as well, because that can get left out. And another area people get a little bit cautious about is above the lip. So you can go one at a time, or you can go both in, and see how I'm using my fingers to just spread the product. So that's good for a first cleanse. I'm going to get my cotton wool, squeeze it out because you don't want water dripping all down your client's neck, and then again introducing the touch at the temples, and then working my way up methodically, making sure I've got everything off. And you can often just see, when you work this slowly, you just see how your client starts to relax. And then because I can see that there is some tinted moisturiser coming off, I'm going to do another cleanse. So coming in again, adding the water, introducing my touch at the temples, and then coming down. And the more you practice, the more it becomes a bit of a circuit. I might raise one hand off the skin, but the other one's always touching, so you kind of feel like you always have contact with your client. I can already see that the skin's going a little bit red, where it's not a reaction, it's just where the blood's coming to the surface. So that's what we want to see. We want to see that the blood's bringing nutrients and oxygen to the top of the skin. And I can also see that the breathing has slowed. My client's relaxing. This is basic effleurage movements just at the cleansing stage. And I'd say I'm using quite a firm pressure. But do be careful on the neck, because you don't want to put too much pressure on the neck, because that can feel a bit unpleasant, especially if your client's a bit anxious. Okay, so I'm going to take that off, and then I'm going to start with my massage. So again, introducing touch at the temple, and then starting at the base of the throat and working my way up. Make sure you get the product off from areas like the lip and below the nose. So I'm just finishing off, getting all that product off. And do remember, if you've exfoliated, which we're not going to do today, but if you do exfoliate, make sure you get every little bit of bead off, because you don't want to start your massage and realising you're kind of grazing their skin with little beads. So I am going to use some vitamin E oil which is really nice and healing and soothing on the skin. And I'm going to spread it over where I'm going to massage, because I don't want to hit dry bits, which is something that you have to be quite aware of with the gloves. So I'm going to spread the product where I'm going to be massaging, including underneath. And I'll go on to this in a bit, but people get quite nervous about getting underneath your client sometimes, but it feels really good when you are doing that massage, so don't be afraid. So I'll just get this on the face as well. See how I'm not rubbing it in my client's ears, just doing it slightly out of their face, just so it's not kind of stressful in any way. So I'm going to distribute this. And then I'm going to start in the chest area. Now, you know, with VCTC, you would be starting out with effleurage. So we all know these moves. So I'm going to give you a few little extras. So something I do is to go along the collarbone. Because remember, we want to be activating the lymph nodes. So I just get my fingers in a little pinch like this, and I run them along the collarbones. And it's fairly firm, and I can already feel a few knots there. And this is really good because we're activating those lymph nodes, we're activating lymphatic drainage. So then we go onto the face, those toxins are going to drain away more easily. And this is often how I start a facial in my own practice. Of course, you wouldn't do that in the VCTC exam, but just as a little insider tip, I just find it really good for clients who have puffy skin and need to drain away some toxins. So I'll be doing this, and then another way that I drain away toxins is to press skin towards the armpits, which is another place, remember, that we have lymph nodes. So I'll focus on this for maybe 4 to 8 strokes, and then I'll join it up in a kind of a circuit, so starting going out along the collarbones, in and then back out to the armpits. And that just feels really good if you've been on your computer all day, or clients who maybe carry bags around or they're lifting weights. It's really, you really get in some really good knots. And then I bring it around to the shoulders, because that's a place that we hold a lot of tension. And I've also kept up my knuckling. I think it's one of the best VCTC massages I learned. I have not had a client who didn't express their satisfaction when you knuckle. I just think it's really good at getting the knots out. So once I'm moving up to the neck, I'm a bit gentler, but I'm using upward strokes. Just plain simple upward strokes, but keeping moving all the time. And this works really well with the VCTC circular movements, which, remember, keeping it slow. But I actually come down at the back and back up. Down at the back, back up. And you can link it with the shoulder massage after a while. So down, around, along the collarbones, down to the armpits, back along the collarbones, behind, and up. And this is just amazing for lymphatic drainage. So then we get towards the face. And this is great along the jawbone to work. I can feel knots all along here. And for me, that's kind of exciting because that means I can really work at it. So what you can see I'm doing here is very similar to the pinch that we learn. I'm working along in circular motions, in towards the chin and out. And my hands are lined up underneath the jawbone. And I'm just working my way along. And the pressure is fairly firm, but it feels really satisfying. But always check with your client, scale of 1 to 10, how's the pressure? 1 being pain, no pain, 10 being really painful. Because some people do prefer like a gentle massage. But that's one of my favourite jaw massages, and I'll just keep going. And honestly, you can really see people's jawlines popping at the end of your facial. And then we know from BCTC we can do circles under the cheekbones. We can just go in a straight line. But what I actually like to do is piano fingers, because this then gets the product onto the upper lip. So I'm just, it's like a tickling motion. And I will do that for, say, 10 to 20 seconds. And then I'll pull up underneath the cheekbones. And then I will just carry on that movement to the ears. And here we have lymph nodes that when we press feels so satisfying. When I'm kind of coming down with a cold or something, I'll put some pressure there, and it just really helps ease that swelling. So piano fingers along. Another way you can reach these lymph nodes is coming from the shoulders up and massaging. You can feel it on the back of your head now. You can just follow either the motion up your neck and see where your fingers come to a natural end, or you can follow the cheekbones along and you hit that spot. You can also do kind of scissor motions here to encourage that lymphatic drainage. Just gonna put my mask up. Right, eye area is somewhere where lots of us get quite puffy. So it's really good to massage the lymph, but I use my ring finger because I don't want to press too hard. The skin can be a bit more thinner and delicate here. So I'm just massaging quite lightly, but when I reach the middle of the nose, not the nostrils, you don't want to pinch in the nostrils and restrict your client's breath, I will press harder and help drain those toxins away. So I'm coming in circular motions, like I did with the jaws, but then I'm pressing a bit harder on the way out. And again, it's that up and out motion towards the lymph nodes. And I do like to focus quite a lot on the temples because we hold so much pressure here. So sometimes it's just using my middle 2 fingers and just pressing. You can do it on yourself to see how it feels. It instantly releases your tension. And sometimes I do small circular motions, but I'm not doing the sort of motions that go anywhere like this. It's more a circular motion on the spot. And that just melts away tension. And another good place for tension with headaches is in between the eyebrows. So there are some different ways we can massage this area.
Yes, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God, that's fine. There are some different ways we can massage the area between the eyebrows where we hold a lot of tension. I can just use 1 finger to hold pressure, then bring it up. Or I can come up the nose with 3 fingers. And again, I am pressing firmly. The forehead's quite a bony area. It can take that kind of pressure. So you can go for it. And this kind of slow flow, it's like you're just encouraging the tension and the frowning away from your client. So I'll come up like this. Then maybe I'll come to a stop in the middle of the forehead. And then I'm pressing down, just going out to the sides. And I am holding quite a lot of pressure there. but I promise it just feels really good, especially because you're using so many fingers, so the pressure is distributed. And you can try each move about 3 times. Just remember the speed is slow. And I might take that further, encouraging the forehead upwards with upward strokes, slowly. And you just see that your client, you just massage the frown away. And then finally, there's a little nook in your inner eye, in your inner brow bone. And this holds so much tension from where we look down at our phones, which we are all very guilty of. You obviously want to be careful because this can be quite tender for some people, but also it's it's your eye. Some people are quite protective of this area. But I just rest my index finger in that nook and I do put on some pressure. And just like I did at the temples, just really small circular motions. If your client is liking it, you can kind of stroke upwards on that spot. And I always like to come to a bit of an end, like this, just to pause in the spot to show my client that that part's over. And when I finish a facial, I like to put pressure on the chest and moving upwards. So I'll put pressure on the chest and I'll breathe in and out, kind of with my client. And then I'll press down on their shoulders for the same amount of time, a nice breath. Then I'll come up to behind the neck, hold there for a breath. And then I come up to the temples and I press this part of my hand in and I just hold it there. And then finally, put a nice bit of pressure on the forehead. This feels really good. And to signify that the facial is over, instead of saying anything, I'll just gently take off their Alice band and just say, get up when you want to get up and take your time. Drink lots of water, wear SPF, give them their advice, but I always like to just give them a bit of space.